So now we're going to talk about some of the rules. What happens when we add integers with the same sign? Well, you're just going to treat it as regular addition, but you're going to keep the sign. So for our first example, 51 plus 32. Those are both positive integers, so it's no problem. Regular addition. 51 plus 32 is 83. The next example, we have negative 22 plus negative 46. Now, you might try to subtract these, but that's not correct. What you really do is you add 22 and 46, but don't forget, since they're both negative, your answer is going to be negative. So negative 22 plus negative 46 is negative 68. And the same rule applies for the next example. Negative 55 plus negative 77. We're going to add 55 and 77, and because they're both negative, our answer stays negative. And our answer becomes negative 132. The last example is regular addition. 11 plus 17. They are both positive numbers, so it's 28. Now, what happens when we add integers with different signs? So we'll have one positive integer and one negative integer. Well, you're going to treat it as subtraction, and you keep the sign of the larger number. In our first example, we have 51 plus negative 32. Well, we can really just treat that as 51 minus 32. And because 51 is bigger, we know our answer is going to be positive. So 51 minus 32 is 19. In the next example, we have 3 plus negative 50. Well, we know 50 is bigger than 3 and 50 is negative, so our answer is going to be negative. Now, this can be confusing for some people. You can actually reorder this to make it easier for you. I like thinking of this as 50 minus 3. I just rearranged it. All right. So if you're free to move things around in your mind on paper, just make sure your answer is negative because 50 is negative and it's the bigger number. So 50 minus 3 is 47. But again, 50 is negative, so the answer is negative 47. Same thing with the next example. I prefer the bigger number to be first. So I'm going to rearrange this as 44 plus negative 24, or just 44 minus 24. And because 44 is positive, our answer is positive. So 44 minus 24 is 20. And the last example, I don't need to rearrange this. It's fine as it is. Negative 65 plus 18. I know my answer is going to be negative because 65 is the bigger number and it's negative, but I'm going to think of this as what is 65 minus 18? And that is negative 47. Now, what happens when we subtract integers with the same sign? Well, you can either treat it as regular subtraction, or you can think of it as adding a negative. So in our first example, it's negative 53 minus 13. A lot of you are going to try to tell me that the answer becomes negative 40, and that is not correct. All right. When you subtract, you get more negative. So this becomes negative 53 plus negative 13. So I'm going to add 53 and 13 together, and my answer is going to stay negative. So it really becomes negative 66. If you don't believe me, put it in the calculator. Negative 53 minus 13. Okay. The next example is regular subtraction. So 16 minus 5, well, that's just 11. The next example is very similar to the first. I think of it as negative 17 plus negative 20. right? If you draw a number line and you're on negative 17, if you're taking 20 away from that, you move to the left. You go further negative. So I'm going to add 17 and 20, and my answer stays negative because they are both negative. And that becomes negative 37. Now, the last example, again, regular subtraction, 8 minus 7, that's just 1. What happens when we subtract a negative integer? So if you look at the picture on the left, we have 4 minus negative 5. So you start at the first number 4, and then you're going to move backward to the right 5 spaces, kind of like the moonwalk, right? So really, minus a negative is being treated as adding a positive, right? So when you have minus a negative, it really becomes regular addition. Not adding a negative, just regular addition. We can think of this in terms of money. Think of it as subtracting debt or taking away debt, right? So for example, if I owe you $5, right, and I take away that debt, right, I'm taking away that negative 5. Well, really, I paid you $5. I don't owe you anything anymore. So I have 0 debt, right? So our first example is 41 minus negative 22. That really becomes 41 plus 22. And 41 plus 22 is 63. Next example, same thing. Negative 21 minus negative 6. That becomes negative 21 plus 6. Now, we have to go back to one of our addition rules, right? We keep the sign of the bigger number. 21 is bigger, so we know our answer is going to be negative, but we're going to treat this as regular subtraction. So 21 minus 6 is 15. But again, because 21 is a bigger number and it's negative, our answer of 15 stays a negative. Here is a visual to help you with these rules. When you are adding two positive numbers, you start somewhere and you move forward to the right. Like you're adding money, you're getting more money, your bank account's getting higher. When you're subtracting 8 minus 6, you move forward 8. Well, now you have to backtrack 6, right? You're taking away money. You spent money, you're taking it away. When we have minus a negative, that's actually a picture of Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk. So you start at 0, you move up 8, and because it's minus a negative, you moonwalk forward. And in the last picture of 8 plus negative 6, well, that's the same thing as subtraction. So you move forward 8. Well, now you have to moonwalk back the way you came, towards the negative. You take away 6.